Complex PTSD is a silent storm that begins early in life and follows a person into adulthood, often without them fully understanding why they feel broken, disconnected, or constantly on edge. Unlike traditional PTSD, which is usually linked to a single traumatic event, complex PTSD, or C-PTSD, arises from prolonged, repeated trauma, especially during the vulnerable years of childhood. This might include emotional neglect, physical or sexual abuse, domestic violence, or growing up in a chronically unstable, unsafe environment. The effects of these early experiences are not just psychological. They leave deep imprints on the brain, the nervous system, and the very sense of self. If you're someone seeking clarity, healing, and community on this often misunderstood journey, I invite you to subscribe to the Code Purple Project. We dive into the real, raw truths of trauma and healing, without judgment, without shame. Childhood is meant to be a time of safety, love, and learning. But for many, it's marked instead by fear, unpredictability, or emotional abandonment. When a child lives in an environment where their basic emotional and physical needs are not consistently met, their developing brain learns to adapt to survive. They may become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for danger. They may learn to dissociate, to disconnect from their emotions or surroundings. Or they may internalize the idea that they are somehow unworthy of love or safety. These coping mechanisms, which once helped them survive, become ingrained patterns that persist into adulthood. One of the most damaging aspects of complex PTSD is that it's not always obvious. A person may not remember specific traumatic events, or might not even recognize their upbringing as traumatic. This is especially true for those who experienced emotional neglect rather than overt abuse. But the effects are still there. Persistent anxiety, difficulty trusting others, chronic feelings of emptiness, shame, or self-blame. Adults with C-PTSD often struggle with relationships, not because they don't want connection, but because deep down, connection feels dangerous. In complex PTSD, the sense of self is often fragmented. This isn't about having multiple personalities, but rather feeling like you're constantly performing, masking, or switching between different versions of yourself, depending on the situation. There may be a functional version that gets through the day, a child part that feels scared or small, and a protector that keeps others at a distance. These parts form because the child never had the safety or support to integrate their experiences. In adulthood, this can lead to confusion, identity struggles, and a chronic sense of not knowing who you really are. Another hallmark of complex PTSD is emotional dysregulation. Adults with this condition may feel overwhelmed by emotions like anger, fear, or sadness without knowing why. Small triggers, a tone of voice, a look, a forgotten text, can lead to intense emotional reactions. This isn't because they're too sensitive or overreacting. It's because their nervous system was wired in a war zone and now responds to life as if it's always under threat. The body remembers what the mind may have tried to forget. Relationships become especially complicated. People with C-PTSD often crave closeness, but fear it at the same time. They may become overly attached or push people away to protect themselves. They may struggle with boundaries, saying yes when they want to say no, or vice versa. This creates cycles of conflict, confusion, and heartbreak. They may also be drawn to emotionally unavailable or abusive partners, not because they want to suffer, but because that dynamic feels familiar, even if it's unhealthy. The inner dialogue of someone with complex PTSD is often harsh and unforgiving. They may carry deep shame, believing they are inherently bad, unlovable, or broken. These beliefs are not true, but they feel true because they were internalized early on. If a child is constantly criticized, ignored, or made to feel like a burden, they begin to see themselves through that lens. As adults, these beliefs can sabotage self-esteem, careers, and personal goals. Flashbacks in CPTSD don't always look like dramatic scenes from a war film. Sometimes they're emotional flashbacks, sudden waves of fear, despair, or rage that seem to come out of nowhere. The person may not see a specific image or memory, but their body and emotions are reliving the trauma. This can be incredibly confusing, especially for those who have no clear memory of what caused it. The nervous system is simply responding to a perceived threat based on past experiences. Another common feature is dissociation. This can range from daydreaming or zoning out to feeling disconnected from your body, your thoughts, or the world around you. It's a defense mechanism, one that helped the child survive overwhelming experiences. But in adulthood, it can interfere with work, relationships, and a sense of presence. People with CPTSD may feel like they're living life from a distance, never fully in the moment. Sleep is often disrupted. Nightmares, night sweats, insomnia, or waking up in a panic are all common. The body doesn't feel safe enough to fully rest. Even when life is objectively stable, the nervous system remains on high alert, always bracing for something bad to happen. This chronic stress can also lead to physical health problems, autoimmune conditions, digestive issues, chronic pain, and more. The body and mind are deeply connected, and trauma affects them both. Healing from complex PTSD is possible, but it requires a different approach than traditional PTSD. It's not just about processing one traumatic event. It's about slowly untangling a lifetime of survival patterns. Therapy, especially trauma-informed approaches like EMDR, somatic experiencing, internal family systems, IFS, and sensoromotor therapy, can be incredibly helpful. These methods work not just on the mind, but on the body where trauma is stored. Recovery also involves rebuilding trust, first with oneself, then with others. It's about learning that it's okay to have needs, to set boundaries, to feel emotions. It's about creating a sense of internal safety where the nervous system can finally relax. This takes time, patience, and often support from compassionate professionals or peers who understand the journey. Self-compassion is essential. Many people with complex PTSD blame themselves for what happened or for how they've struggled since. But none of it is their fault. They adapted in the only ways they knew how. The fact that they're still here, still trying, still seeking healing, is a testament to their strength. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past, it means learning to carry it differently. Support. Networks are also vital. Whether it's therapy, support groups, online communities, or trusted friends, having people who get it can be life-changing. Isolation often reinforces trauma. Connection helps dissolve it. You don't have to explain everything or be fully healed to be worthy of support. You're allowed to be a work in progress. And let's be honest, healing isn't linear. There will be setbacks, tough days, and moments when it feels like nothing is changing. That's normal. But every moment of awareness, every boundary set, every tear cried in safety, that's healing. It's not loud or dramatic. Often, it's quiet and slow, but it's real. And over time, it adds up. As more people speak openly about complex PTSD, the stigma continues to break down. There's no shame in being shaped by what you've been through. What matters is that healing is possible. With the right tools, support, and self-compassion, you can move from merely surviving to truly living. Your story doesn't end with trauma. It continues with healing, growth, and new beginnings. If this message resonates with you and you want to walk this journey with others who understand, subscribe to the Code Purple Project. You're not alone, and your healing matters.